welcome to the Espace Tricot podcast.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Naomi, and we are a knitting and crochet store in Montreal. A yarn store, if you will.
An LYS.
So as we open this episode, we're just going to dive right into something that's been very much on our minds, and we know it's been on your minds too. The tariff situation and the relations between the United States and Canada right now are not really something we ever saw coming, and have definitely given rise to a lot of uncertainty, both on a business level, but also on a personal level among our community and our friends and our family. We have customers coming into the store asking how we're doing, and concerned and wondering how it's affecting us. And the truth is, sometimes it feels like we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's coming. We obviously are aware of various practical considerations on a business level, but it's pretty scary sometimes. But what we are seeing, what we know is that there has been an incredible, encouraging outpouring of support for Canadian small businesses, both from Canadians and also from Americans who are finding their own ways to do something that might seem small, but is actually really touching, really encouraging. When we see your orders still coming in, and some lovely notes that people have left in their order comments, just wishing us the best and apologizing for what's happening, which is obviously not any one person's responsibility to do, but still
we read it. It means something to us for sure.
It means a huge amount when it feels like there's not a lot you can control and not a lot of ways you can react. That people are still finding ways to do that, however small it seems, is really encouraging, really heartening. And that's what we're holding on to. What we know is our community, and what we know is yarn and knitting and crochet and projects. And while it may seem like there's so much more going on right now, we hope that we can still inspire you. We know a lot of people turn to their crafting at times like this for community and for comfort and for distraction. If we're honest, we do that too. So here we are with an episode with all of that in mind. And we hope that you can find some inspiration in the yarns we're showing, or ways to use your stash if buying yarn today or this week or this month isn't in the cards for you. We hope that the projects that we show will inspire you in your stash as well, give you ideas.
And just to this end, we're going to try something this episode where we're not going to have comments on for this video. I'll give you a little peek behind the scenes, but YouTube comments are where we have to do the most moderation. And chances are you've never seen some of the comments that people leave, because we're really careful to get rid of them fast. And it's kind of been on our minds for a bit of like how to go on managing that. So we want to keep doing the podcasts and putting them up on Fridays when we take our weekends, because we know that's when you guys have time to watch. But especially in light of what we discussed right now, like we know that that's going to bring a lot of opinions. Yeah,
to put it lightly.
That's a nice way of putting it. So listen, those of you who would never dream of doing that, I'm sorry that means that now you can't comment below this video.
The vast majority of you who leave the loveliest comments, which really does help with engagement and with helping us to realize why we do this, that there are people behind the screen. We know you, we see you.
So we're hoping that if you do want to chat with us, if you want to communicate with us, that you'll email us. We are contact@espacetricot.com.
And you can put it down in the little bar.
Yeah. And of course, our Instagram is something that we're like more on top of the moderation on, where we see that all the time. If you want to chat with us there, we really appreciate it. It means so much. But just, I don't know, there's something about this particular platform that brings out certain stuff that we are just realizing we don't have the wherewithal to manage. So again, I hope that doesn't turn everybody off too much. We do love chatting back and forth. And we hope you'll come find us in those other places to do that. And now let's get to the good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we start with what we're wearing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you probably recognize both of our garments today, but let's chat about them anyway.
Yeah, then we're doing like a greatest hits. So this is the Flagship vest. This is one of my designs in our own Jolly DK. It's a great first steeking project. In fact, I think Jen was doing this, Jen Geegley. I think that's how you say her name. I hope so, Jen. I hope I'm saying that right. Did this as a first steek project, and a few people were doing that along with her.
A lot of people picked it up at the Yarn Birds truck the kit at Rhinebeck not Rhinebeck, at Cake Palooza,
At Cake Palooza.
when Yarnbirds had hosted us. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Kits, and one of Robin's team members was wearing it, but she did it flat. She didn't speak.
It's funny how like to me that sounds like an utter nightmare, and then to her it was like, I'm not cutting my knitting.
So you can sort of do it either way.
You can do it.
But take it on.
Yeah.
Be brave. Steek.
Yeah, so I think we have some kits of this. We try to keep a kit or two of this in stock. If for some reason you don't see your size, you hit notify me and I'll build it.
Colors.
Yeah. But it's perfect for this time of year because it's not hot and it's not cold. If I can put a jacket on top of it, or I can take it off. And I found this dead stock Pendleton
really cool
button down at a thrift shop. Had never been worn, and I love the way that this little thing kind of looks like some of the designs in here. I think it's a very cool look. So
you know that the next vest you knit now needs to incorporate this into colorwork somehow.
I can take that on. That sounds like
challenge
fun.
accepted.
Yeah. So what about you?
I am wearing a spring favorite, the Pressed Flowers by Savory Knitting, Amy Christophers. This is the cardigan, evidently. I really love this mosaic knitting motif that is in a whole bunch of projects. It started out with the shawl. There is now, I'll talk about this a little bit later too, but our elegant assistant is also wearing her own Pressed Flowers extended universe garment, and so
I
this
like
is
the
a
extended
cardigan.
universe thing. That's great. If Amy hasn't used that, she should.
Yeah. Well, she's really extended it. It is worthy of the moniker. So I knit this, I think, pretty much exactly as written, gauge, length, everything the same. And the cardigan, because it's worked flat, is actually a more fluid way of working this motif than the designs that are in the round, because there's very little purling involved. Maybe not even, off the top of my head, maybe not even any, although you are sort of doing a bit of a purling motion because there's slip yarn.
With yarn.
Slip one with yarn and back.
Right.
Anyway, so it's a slip stitch pattern, which uses a color changing yarn to get this. The yarn's doing all the work for you. So we used I used Ulysse in quartz and Zababall. This isn't the exact color I used, but you're going to get a similar effect. I love pink and green together. And brown. If you can throw brown in there too, even better. So,
and we have lots of options for color changing yarn. If you're thinking about doing some shopping online, you need help, just let us know. We can take pictures of your pairings together and send them to you by email. So, we have lots of, in that sport DK weight, we have a few different options. So, because we just love this look. It's like you said, like let it do the work for you.
I think I talked about this on a podcast when I was initially planning the project, because I wasn't sure that the sport weight Ulysse, which can even be knit like a DK, it looks to the eye thicker, significantly fairly thicker than Zababall, and you do generally in color work, you want your contrasting yarn, the one that you really want to showcase. If anything, that should be maybe slightly thicker than the base yarn. So I was just,
it makes sense, but I didn't
feel
know
that way just to help it pop. So I was worried that the Zababall would be too thin compared to the Ulysse. So I did my swatch first and can confirm they totally stand out well against each other. When I go for picking a color changing yarn in a garment where I really want it to show, I like to pick a color that just doesn't appear anywhere in the base. I'll talk about this a bit more with the bandana, because they are a little closer in places, but sometimes if we see two yarns together, we think they might go well together because they share a color at some point.
But then you'll lose them.
But then you can lose it.
Yeah.
So
if it was this one, which is called Creme Anglaise, and this one, there's huge stretches where these two yellows would be sitting next to each other and you would lose the pattern.
Without talking about the yarn, why don't I show you what I mean? Because there's nothing like a visual aid. In this, there is some sections where there's yellow on yellow. And you can see that I kind of lost the definition here a little bit. A little. And here a bit more so. I don't mind so much in a smaller project, but I wouldn't.
You wouldn't want a band of that,
I wouldn't want a band of that more obviously in a cardigan. So it helps to choose colors that are sort of, I would say, even complementary instead of matching.
So that
go to
pop.
the opposite sides of the wheel. Pink and green, purple and yellow, orange and green.
Blue.
Orange and blue,
yeah.
yes. just to make sure that they're going to go well together and still stand out.
And we can totally help with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, we can take photos just for you based on what you're looking for. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, highly recommend both these projects. They get a lot of wear in our wardrobes for sure. And yeah, I'm really comfortable right now. I don't think we're going to bother changing.
No, I'm getting this.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
So one thing we're going to do a little differently this episode is we have a ton of new yarn, and then we have a ton of whips and finished objects, but they kind of all are of one. So we're going to go through a new yarn line that we have in the store.
Yes.
We'll introduce the yarns, and then we'll talk about the specifics.
We have some whips and FOs all mixed in together.
Yeah. So I'll start by holding these up. You can. You want to do a little intro?
We have brought in 5 lines from Danish brand.
Nope, not that one.
Not that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you had that one, yes.
Yeah.
From Danish brand Gepard Garn. So you may be familiar with this company. Part of the reason we became familiar with them is that I think they have been expanding through North America, and we've visited a few yarn stores when we were doing our book tour. We got a lovely chance to visit yarn stores all over, and we started seeing more and more of Gepard and really just loving the lines that we saw, the feel of it, and also the samples.
It was the samples that really did it. It was like, what is this?
Yeah. So when we had the chance to bring it in, they have so many lines, so much choice, which is a lot of fun, because sometimes it's like, okay, well, other stores stock it, should we go for it? But when there's so much variety to be had, it's just a no-brainer. We were really happy to discover this company. And this is the one that kind of led you into it, right? You were looking for 100% cashmere.
Yeah, so we had a 100% cashmere, but the mill suffered some damage in floods, and so we were having a really hard time restocking it. And so I was like, you need 100% cashmere in your store, but you really want it to be a weight that's flexible. So I really liked that this is a lace weight 100% cashmere. It comes in 25-gram balls.
It is called cashmere lace.
You put 2 together and you basically got a fingering weight. But if you want to pair it with a mohair, you want to pair it with a fuzzy yarn, you can do all kinds of stuff. It's just, and also we were really low on lace weight.
Yeah.
So it met a whole bunch of things. So that's where it started. And then we started digging into some of the other bases.
And this is flexible on gauge. They recommend 25 to 29 stitches with a single thread, and 20 to 26 stitches with a double thread. So there's a lot you can do, and with the yardage is 330 meters in 25 grams. That's like almost 1,300 meters in 100 grams.
Yeah.
Doubling that into a fingering weight becomes, yes, it's 100% cashmere. It's a luxury. It's an indulgence. But the meterage that you get, even when doubling it at a fingering weight, is a great bang for your buck.
I did this little mini swatch of it when we got it in, just to be able to show people how it knits up. I did a held double, and I got 22 stitches on a 3.5.
Okay.
And it was, once this was a little bit see-through for me, what it made me think was I would try for 23 to 24 stitches. That's for double. Yeah, for held double, that would be the sweet spot for it. Yeah.
Lovely.
So that's the cashmere lace. And then like I said, we're going to go through them, but so we did also a mohair. Got to have a stranding mohair, and this one specifically is called Kidsetta Tweed, because it has a very, very subtle variegation to it, but very subtle.
When they say tweed, it's an interesting definition of tweed. It doesn't have neps.
Yeah.
But the colors are somewhere in between a commercially dyed and a hand dyed. Almost, I think, painted might be the term.
Yeah.
They use, some colors have more variegation in them than others, but we chose them to sort of to round out our mohair and stranding yarn collection. So none of them are purely solid colors. And there are some really interesting shades that we don't have in our other mohair options.
I would say they're subtle enough that if that's not like, if you're holding them together with another yarn that's solid, it's so subtle.
Yes, you wouldn't get
beautiful.
It wouldn't really read as variegated.
It's got that subtlety.
Yarn. Yeah. Our Bliss mohair is going to give you more variegation than any of these.
This. Yeah, I agree. Okay, and then this is Woolia, which is a worsted weight yarn. It's 100% merino. It's very soft, very lightly plied. It's fabulous, and the price is amazing. It's $8.50 Canadian for a 50-gram ball. So I'm going to show you a colorwork project that takes advantage of that.
Good yardage in there too, 133 meters, that's about 300 yards and 100 grams of a worsted weight yarn. It's so light that the yardage gets really packed in there. These balls are just beautifully wound too. They look
I like
a
them.
little homely. And we were wondering, is it going to feel just like Gilead? And
it's different.
It's lighter, it's not as bouncy. And I think they could work really well together, but they definitely complement each other in our collection.
And yeah, they offer different things for sure.
Take a look. Obviously, all of our links will be down below. Take a look on our website. We've posted more information with this about gauge because Gepard recommends a lot of different gauges for this. On the ball band, even it says 15 to 20 stitches. That's a big range. I think it's justified. It's a really versatile yarn. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the color palette's really fab.
Yeah. And it's made in Italy. I think most of their yarns are made in Italy.
Yeah, I think that the message from this is that it's a Danish company and it's milled in Europe, generally Italy. Because I know people are asking more about this information.
Absolutely.
They want to know not only where's the company from, but where was it made.
And the merino is Italian too, which is interesting because Gilead's merino is French and Spanish.
Yeah. So let's do a tour.
Try it all. Single origin merino.
And then, okay, so the next one is the Wild and Soft. And this was another one that was really attractive to me because one of the things Naomi and I were talking about was like, we had become a very woolly shop. Like everything was 100% wool, which is great. But I was like,
I have no problem with this.
We were like a little low on fiber blends.
Yes, where's the alpaca?
So the next two we're going to show you have our blends that we think were just really nice to add to our shelf. So this is a 40% Tessa silk and a 60% wool. So this can function as a summer yarn. Like it's got a lot of silk in it. It does add a little bit of shine.
Our colleague Kathleen has already started a little light summer cardigan in it. It's beautiful. She's knitting it in black and she's, I never thought I would knit with black yarn. And she's actually knitting with black yarn on the Chiaogu Forte tips,
which are also black.
Like a black wood shaft. And she said there's so much shine from the silk that it's not a problem. Wrecking her eyes at all. It's not a problem at all.
There's a real nice crispness to this that's coming from the raw silk. It's really, it's just gorgeous. And it's between a fingering and a lace weight. I definitely feel like knitted at fingering weight, even though it's a little bit, like all of the yarns are quite light in their yardage. They feel like based on the yardage, I would say, oh, that's a lace weight. But when I actually have it in my hand and I'm knitting with it, it's a fingering weight.
Oh, that I would say very, very much so. This one, I can really imagine those summer wedding shawls. There's so much gloss to it. It's going to be light.
Nice definition, though. Really
lovely
beautiful.
Stitch definition. We're just showing you all the beiges and neutrals.
Yeah, just to start, just so that you can compare them, see the texture.
Grab one from the shelf, but they have beautiful color ranges. You can find all that online. And then the last one
is Pure Lana. So this is a DK weight, and it's half alpaca and half wool. So again, we wanted that blend. We want to be able to offer people something beyond just 100% wool. And it's just a beautiful new option on our DK shelves. DK is probably our most popular sort of weight that we sell at the store.
I think so. And one of our favorites too.
Yeah, we have a lot of designs at that sort of 22 range. Yeah.
This would be a great sub in for any of those stranded fingering and mohair stranded sweaters that are coming out to somewhere between 20 and 22 stitches. This sort of has a little more softness and drape from the alpaca rather than being like a super bouncy woolly wool. So I think it's sort of a nice option for any of these. You kind of get a little bit of a halo from the guard hairs of the alpaca, and it doesn't feel as slippery as 100% alpaca.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the stranded petite knit patterns that people are asking us for a DK substitute, this is really interesting because it has some of the fuzz
and a little weight from the alpaca too, so you get a bit more of that drape. You'll end up getting the flow of the garment that's intended.
Even though you're not stranding mohair with a fingering. Okay.
So how about some projects with this? Well, I've been going on about the chicken scarf. So
do you want to start with the chicken scarf?
Talk about this one. This is Pure Lana with edition 3 by Shopperwaller. So this is the free pressed flowers kerchief bandana. I think the official name, if you're looking for it on Ravelry, is kerchief. Now this is a free collaboration with Hobby and Pom Pom and Savory Knitting, and everyone's getting in on it. And there are a lot of projects. It's so fun. It worked out really nice and quickly.
Yeah, I feel like you thought about it and then you were like, here it is.
Yeah. It's just so hypnotic and one more stitch, one more row with the mosaic knitting. motif. So it's worked from point to point. You increase until about halfway and then you decrease. And I used one ball of each. And I ended up with enough left when I weighed it that I would have had enough of the edition 3 to make the hat as well.
Oh,
there's a pressed flowers hat. That one is paid, and they haven't made it. You'd need an extra ball of Pure Lana, but so 2 balls of Pure Lana and one of edition 3 would make you a little hat and bandana.
Okay, so I have a whip for one of the yarns. Can I show you?
Yes.
Okay. So I am working with the Woolia, which I also just really like saying it. Woolia.
It's like if I'm saying woolier with my accent. Woolia.
Oh yeah, that's cute. I think I'm going wedding singer. It's kind of Woolia Goolia.
I forget that reference.
So her name is Julia, and she's marrying
yes.
Mr. Gulia, and he's like, so your name's gonna be Julia Gulia? And she has this moment of realization. Anyway,
that I should rewatch that movie. It's one of the
it's a good one
of my early youth that I need to rewatch.
So I have come back to a design that I'm really happy with and that I love very much is my Baccarat sweater, and I've made 4 of them.
I almost wore it today.
Yeah, I thought about mine too, but it wasn't the right weather.
It was too warm to wear it, so I left it out.
So the original is a turtleneck, but I have already once knit myself a version that is just a crew neck, and also the original, because it's a turtleneck, didn't have any short rows. So in the little pink version I made for myself, I added short rows, but I buried them in the color work. So you can see, if I find here, at this point here, you can see this little brown triangles. This is the front versus these are the little brown triangles in the back.
Ooh, clever.
So, and same with this motif here in the front looks like this.
I like that. I really like when colorwork yokes start the colorwork evenly all the way around right at the ribbing, but it's hard because then how do you do have to do some engineering to get the rows in.
So you can do it after the split as well. But this is going to be quite cropped. So there's not a lot of room. And I just thought, I don't know, you know me. I'm like, oh, here's a crazy idea. Yeah. Why don't I do this?
Yeah.
Because each size I have to calculate sort of where to do it, because I also don't want you doing double stitches into color work.
Right.
So anyway, I'm doing, I'm taking notes carefully as I do this, I swear. But I'm going to use, I think, 6 colors altogether, 5 or 6 colors of the Woolia. My main color is this beautiful dark brown here. And, perfect timing to be doing a nice worsted weight sweater in March. So I might, basically, this might be a fall release.
Take your time with the grading.
Yeah.
And then, people start knitting their fall sweaters in August or so. Yeah.
So I love the colors. Like, they are just so beautiful. Originally, this sweater was very much like sort of a 70s inspiration. It's called Baccarat after the boutique where like Kay Fassett and some of his buddies were first debuting their work in the 60s and 70s. So that the color palette is sort of in keeping with that as well. These browns is sort of...
And unbeknownst to you, our colleague Alessia also got yarn to start her own, but she's not following
the original one.
She's doing the original one, turtleneck and all, I think. And she took the inspiration of like gaudy 80s après-ski.
Amazing.
So her main color is navy, and then she's taken like this neon yellow, neon pink, neon green, and white. And I think it's going to be fabulous. We'll share it with you when she's got some progress done.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's dopamine dressing at its finest.
Cool.
She was aiming for.
So I'm finding that I think I'm on 5mm needles, and it's a little bit of a bigger gauge than the original. So the original calls for 18. I think this is closer to 17, maybe even 16. I'll have to give it a good block and have a check on that. I'm loving working with this yarn. It's almost velvety how it feels. It's just fantastic.
This is the first time, to be honest, that I'm feeling it. Well, as we said, we saw samples at other stores and that really got us hooked on it. But this is the first time in a while I felt it knit up, and it's fantastic. Yeah,
it's great. And very, very fast knitting because it's like so Moorish. I want more. I want to see what's going to happen next and choose my next color.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I have another FO with Gepard yarns. I went through like a 2-week period of being like on a roll of banging out the small projects, and I got really into it. I went to Toronto for my grandmother's birthday, and I had that typical thing of like, I need a small project that I can travel with because Air Canada won't even let you take a carry-on bag anymore. It's like going for a weekend with a handbag, and all of my whips were like, do I get through all my miles of stockinette, but it's kind of too big, what do I cast on? And I did manage to knit this in a weekend. I was inspired by Daphne, the owner of Pulp Books in Verdun, a really adorable bookshop. If you're visiting Montreal, it's definitely worth a detour to that cute neighborhood. And she was wearing, when I saw her at the store, the Serpent Balaclava by Milena Paulina, except when I saw it on Daphne, it was like around her neck like this, like a little cowl. I was like, what is that? It's so cute. And I just had to make one right away. So this is the cashmere lace from Gepard, held double, with mohair held double, so 4 strands. 50 grams of mohair, 2 balls of the cashmere. I think that I could have got away with it with 1 ball of the cashmere, but based on the yardage and the pattern, it takes 2.
Okay.
But you'll have enough to do something else with, because yeah, I had quite a bit of both cashmeres left. But I took like 1 ball. I wasn't holding an inner and an outer strand.
I see what you're saying.
I held one
from each ball.
So this really caught my eye, just obviously because of the ruffles. And it is.
Can I just say what I said before, which is that it's kind of like you're an Anne Geddes baby.
It's kind of giving Anne Geddes baby energy. The first time I actually wore it as a balaclava, I'm like,
no, I mean, I think that's like a big mood, and I like it.
I just think it's adorable. It's so fun. It's really well shaped. I followed it exactly as written.
Beautiful. Can we show the top here? Like, just look at the beautiful shaping, and then these are such good ruffles.
Really excellent ruffles. It's worth it just to know how to do these ruffles.
Kind of
I'm not
they're
spoiling
really
it
cool.
for you. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Really fun. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that.
Well,
it's really adorable.
So as Naomi's running around picking that pattern out, it's because she's leaving. Like, she's like, I gotta find something. I'm walking out the door in a few minutes. I guess the ruffles, like, osmosis to them their way into me, and I was like, yeah, ruffles. I feel like knitting some ruffles. And I remembered that I already have a design with some ruffles, which is behind me here. This is the You Had Me at Tricot, which I designed right when we bought the store. It was like my homage to a couple of classic shawls in the Espace Tricot sort of pattern library, and I was like, I want to do my take on it. And so it has these sort of ribbed ruffles in a short row here. So I was like, I'm gonna come back to that idea, but I'm gonna make it genuinely tiny. So while Naomi was casting that on, I cast on this little design, which is called the Genuinely Tiny Scarf.
And see, the funny thing is, Steph, is that it's not that
tiny. Okay, so the reference to the genuinely tiny thing is from the movie Bridget Jones, the original one, where I think it's when Hugh Grant's character is coming over and she runs into her bedroom. She goes, oh, this is an occasion for some genuinely tiny knickers. And for some reason, I really love her line delivery. And like,
really stuck with you.
It really stuck with me all these years. And I was like, I want to knit a genuinely tiny scarf. So that's what I did. And this is in the Wild and Soft, held with the kids say that tweed in these 2 lilac-y shades. One's called Wisteria, one's called Pale Lilac.
So I guess here's a great chance to show you exactly how variegated that mohair is. It's slightly more, I can see it's slightly more in person, but you can tell that there's some shading in here. It's not all solid. It's lovely, it's subtle. It's not what I would call tweed.
No, but it is very, very pretty.
It's very, very pretty.
So this, I very much on purpose designed this to be 1 ball of each. And I also created a tutorial for this one, which is on the channel. You can check that out. It explains how to do this little kind of maneuver to create the little eyelets and also sort of secure these short rows as you go, which is also in this pattern. And I never had a tutorial for it. It's funny, I filmed one, but my nails looked really bad, and then I was too embarrassed to post it. So now,
like 3
years later, I have finally properly done it.
Your nails were looking good that day.
I don't even know if they were looking good. I think I'm just over it. I was like, it's more important that there be a tutorial. So there is a tutorial now for both of these patterns explaining how to do that, and also, you know, how to make this for your yarn. So if you don't buy our kit, or you don't get this yarn, how to find your halfway point.
Dive, weigh your yarn, and
because it could be shorter. It could be tinier.
It could be tinier.
So how I would wear this, I would probably start with the middle here and come around to the front. And then this is how I imagined it, sort of like, you know, très français, a little cutesy. And then like the ruffle can be on the bottom, or the ruffle could be at the top around your neck, however you want to wear it.
Very, very sweet.
But this, I think I knit this in the same amount of time that you did, the balaclava. So we basically came in after the weekend, and we're like, look
what I have.
we can ruffle it out together. The cool thing about this too is that the kit for this is under $30. So you get the pattern and you get your 2 balls of yarn.
And you're really going to be able to use, depending, like based on your gauge, you can use every inch of the yarn if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have another new yarn company to the store, a Canadian company called Gathering Yarns based out of Alberta, and they work with mills in Peru. They have excellent stories and details on their website about their relationships with these mills and the sustainability and fair trade and fair labor practice initiatives going on there. All stuff we love to see. We love to see the transparency and the stories from these companies. And we have just really gotten into these 2 bases in the last few weeks we've had them in.
Well, and also this also came from sort of a search. There's something that you wanted on our shelves that you didn't see, and we were trying to find something to fit that, and that's where this particular yarn came in, called the Farmer.
Yeah, I wanted a 100-gram format, fingering weight to sport garment yarn. You might notice from our fingering weight selection, a lot of them are 50-gram format. So obviously our hand-dyed yarns are more like 100, but I was looking for something at a slightly more accessible sweater weight price point. You know, we're buying at least 3 to 4 skeins or more. And I wanted a high wool content, and this just really fit the bill when we saw it. So this is 60% fine Highland wool, 20% fine alpaca, and 20% nylon, because it is the Farmer sock yarn. Now this though feels a bit like our Happy 4-ply. You don't feel, even though it's 20%, you don't really feel the nylon, and I can definitely imagine this is a garment yarn.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, you responded to it immediately as a garment yarn, and I knit a sock for it basically really fast, just so we would have something in the shop to be able to say this is what it feels like. But I think we just want to take a little more time before we decide what garment to make with it.
I'm really taking my time with this. I pulled these 3 colors from the shelves to show you there's a really lovely range of all the essential colors. These are just 3 that I thought might particularly be something I'm looking for. Maybe one of these 2 more for the spring. And I think that the stitch definition in this is going to be really quite nice. So I want to take my time finding something that's not just miles of stockinette, that has a little bit more technique and interest to it.
Well, I think something we both felt when we were doing our ruffled garments was like the joy of something a little bit like that, where there's like a certain technique or something to it.
And this too, with the mosaic stitching, and I have Miles of Stockinette project on my needles right now. I don't need another one. I'm feeling like I want to make something that is like, that looks like I made it, that doesn't look store-bought.
Yeah, it's like those 2 competing, the 2 wolves inside you.
Yes. And I would say each wolf has equal time in my knitting proclivities.
But yeah, so when this yarn came across our sort of radar, thanks to a wonderful rep who we work with regularly, we were like, ooh, that kind of hits all those places, and then it turned out they have another base too.
Yes.
But first, I will give you the details on this. This actually, like, super duper fast. I just did the toe up sock from Summer Lee's the sock project book, which we have back in stock. And this uses the Flegel heel, which I had never done before, and was super fast and easy. I did do a little bit, like I think I did the toddler sock size because I was knitting with a DK or a sport weight yarn versus.
Interesting. I guess you can't really see because of the dark yarn. Yeah. It is an interesting shape. And you used a 3.25 millimeter for this, and it measured out at 24 stitches, but you could go denser for boot
big
socks.
time.
Yeah, this might have just been the needle you had.
It's also me, because I'm such a loose knitter. I was like, oh, that's the recommended needle size. I should always remember to go down at least 1.
So as a 6-ply sock yarn, if you do want to make socks, we have like the traditional sock monkey colors and boot socks, like those root style socks. It would be perfect for that. And they'll be even quicker because you can go, I would say like maybe at least 2.75 millimeter for these, 3 millimeter maybe even, and casting on somewhere in the 50 something stitches instead of 64, 68, whatever you usually do.
That's right.
Really, really, I think hard wearing in inside boots, great for indoor socks as well.
Yeah, we're just so excited to find it.
Yeah.
So I have the other base on my needles right now.
You had a bit more of a, this yarn should be this pattern when you saw this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So I think I have a skein of it here too. So this is the other base that we brought in, which is called Haynes Creek. And so this is a worsted weight. They call it Aran. I don't know. I feel like we could do a whole episode about what is Aran, what is worsted. It's a worsted weight yarn. You're going to want to knit it on sort of 4 to 5 millimeter needles. I'm knitting it on 4.5s, and it's a very woolly wool. Like it's just like it's like knitter wool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just like it's bouncy.
It's like if an alien came to Earth and asked what wool is, you would show them this. It's got a really like clear spin to it. Fantastic for cables, as we're about to see.
So this is my work in progress on it, and hopefully if I do it sort of to the side, you can see the stitch work with the lace. With the light. So this is the Anne of Cleves. No, it's not in that one.
Oh, it's not? Oops.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, that's right, yes.
So this is a Jade Starmore design. Jade Starmore is the daughter of Alice Starmore. Together they have a company called Virtual Yarns, and Alice Starmore in particular was a Scottish designer of great renown. Through sort of the 90s when I started knitting, she was a huge deal. She's still a huge deal, just maybe not as known. But so a bunch of her books had been reissued, and we decided to bring them in, and I immediately knew that this was the design I had to make, and I had to make it in the Haynes Creek. So it is complicated. It is charts that you have to look at both sides. So it's not knit the knits and purls the pearls on the wrong side. It is like everything moves all the time. Not cabling, but like there's moss stitch in some sections, and then other sections are reverse stockinette, and it's moving all the time.
Right.
So it's been a little slower than I would like, because I really have to knit like where I can spread out and where I can see really clearly, and I can track things line by line by line.
Yeah. But a project like this, it kind of feels like you want to devote that energy and that time to it. There's something about creating heirloom knits where like the taking time with the process feels like the right way to do it, rather than just trying to bang it out.
Yes, and the other thing I will say, there's definitely mistakes in here. I'm cool with it. This is the back. I'll be better on the front. It'll be better on the front.
Practice with the back.
Yeah. But it's really wonderful to knit. I'm also using the new Chagu Forte tips that we have as separate. Yeah. So that I find that they're just a lovely addition to that. Like I'm knitting this sort of fabulous pattern, fabulous yarn, and then using like the nicest needles. It feels really, really good. So again, like I'm not in a huge hurry with this because it's going to be for fall. If I get done earlier, obviously I'll show you. But in the meantime, there's a whole bunch of gorgeous color work designs in this book. We also brought in her Aran knitting, which has incredible cabled sweaters. Here's another one. And then we also have her Farrell knitting book, which has incredible charts in it and some designs as well. To give you my I'll give you my 2-minute review of these books. So they were out of print for a while. She brought them back, but she redid a lot of them in her own yarn. So the Starmores created Virtual Yarns. It's their own yarn that comes from Scotland, from the Isle of Harris and Lewis. And basically, she's very particular about you should use her yarn. That was it was a big drama. So these have all been rephotographed. We're obviously not using her yarn because you can't stock her yarn. You can only get it from her. And I've bought kits from her, and it's totally worth it. But if you want to make these patterns and you can't get that yarn, basically you're looking at either fingering weight or worsted weight. Those are the two base weights that she uses. Some of these have been updated with new sizing, and some of them have not. So if you're interested and you're at all concerned about size inclusivity, please let us know that you're thinking about buying the book, and we can go through it and have a look at it for you based on your size, because some of these are great. They're all the way up. They're size inclusive, and there's others that stop at like 44, and you're like, what is going on here? And they're complicated. They're not easy to change. The Farrell is better because she's giving you the charts and she's giving you the info, but some of the designs in here are very, very specific to the cables and the twisted stitches working around the openings. And they're knit flat and they're seamed for the most part. Not this one. This one is probably the most beginner friendly, or intermediate friendly.
And this is a little bit more, there are patterns for sure, but it's also a compendium of techniques,
charts.
and charts that you could map onto.
You show that.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, I think they flash it fast.
Okay, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where you have pages of probably originally hand drawn, but just like almost Piri bands and charts that you could color in yourself, photocopy and color in, and map onto simpler designs.
Yeah, exactly. So
like
yeah,
the blank canvas by Isolde Teague.
Yes.
It's a fantastic design for this sort of thing. It's a DK weight pattern. I've done this before already, putting color work onto that pattern. So really good pairing.
But also, what I find really amazing going back to these books after so many years is realizing how much information is packed into them. Like she does a full history of like, what is Fair Isle? Where does it come from? There's steeks, like all the instructions on how to steek are in here with photographs. All the instructions on how to like kind of create your own designs are in here along with everything else. It's just like, they're not just pattern books, they are complete technique books as well. Not so much this one, but these two.
Yeah. Awesome. And speaking of, I have another one.
Yeah, this one's amazing.
This one holds a special place in my heart. I actually had picked up a copy of this for myself at least about a year ago. This pattern book I remember from my childhood because my granny had a, I think, ring bound version. And Granny, if you're watching, email me and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think, Granny, you told me that you were regretting giving it to a friend because you never got it back. And but here it is, still in print. And it is again, part history, part pattern book, part stitch dictionary of Gladys Thompson's journey through mostly the northeast coast of the UK, collecting local stitch patterns from fishing villages. And very much sort of traveling the same route that the herring wives would take, the women who would travel up and down the coast with the herring crops, packaging them and knitting as they went. So these designs were hyper-localized and would be carried from village to village and shared. And Gladys Thompson, the author, has all these stories of just going to a random town, being like, who's the knitter? Who do I talk to about your local pattern? Saying, oh, go up the road to Mrs. Laidlaw or whatever. And sitting down for a cup of tea and picking up these, basically like copying out the stitch patterns from like the back of the husband's sweater as he's wearing it. Yeah. And at one point she's like, he offered to take it off for me, but I was like, no, that's okay, I can get it. And she copied it down off his back. So I opened this book and like a couple of the sweaters passed down through my family in here. I see them and I'm like,
that's where it came from.
I have that one at home. So this was a real nostalgia blast for me, and but also still knittable patterns.
But definitely gives you a sense of sort of the information that knitters of this era were bringing to the book, right? Like these are more like guidelines.
Yes, very much so. Some of it's very inconsistent with its presentation. Some of the patterns, some of the stitch designs are only written K2 P1, K3 P1, that sort of thing, because it's Guernseys. These are knit and purl stitch motifs. There's some cabling,
and then other stuff is charted.
Others are whole sweaters, and some are just like photos in a chart. And the charts are from before there was any kind of software, so they're hand-drawn. It is a charming book.
But you want to bring an attitude to it of, this is going to be a useful part of my library, and when I'm ready to sit down and do some planning, then I'm going to use this book. You're not going to open this up and cast on
a sweater
like that.
Necessarily.
Yeah. I love that we have these in the store now. It really makes me happy. So while we're on the topic of books, I have one last sort of finished object that I never showed. It's like pre-Christmas. So
never too late.
This is basically, it's the Gertrude vest from Susan Crawford's Echoes, knit in Jameson, Shetland Spindrift 2 ply. But I admit that I wanted a V-neck because I have a lot of round neck stuff, and I was like, oh, I should do something different. So I used the Skein Deer's The Academic as sort of the model for my armhole and neck shaping. But otherwise, the colorwork chart is very much Susan's. Now, I'll hold it up so you can really see it. I had so much fun using these bright colors and sort of that aren't what I think of when I think of Jameson in a way. Like that's this quite sort of machine dyed. I don't know, but there's like Susan in particular has some beautiful designs, not just in this book, but also in some of her others, Stitch in Time, where she really showcases sort of the way that sort of non-natural colors ignited this sort of fierce creativity in Farrell knitting, changed it, and I wanted to sort of capture that. So that's why it's these fabulous purples and turquoises.
The one I just showed you is also, there's a cardigan version for this vest. This is the Vita from this book.
Yeah.
And what a fun twin set that would be.
I know.
I'm getting inspired, but it's 30 stitches and 4 inches, and am I going to do that?
Well,
I could do that.
I don't think I did. I think I probably made some modifications so that I could knit this a little bit looser. But I love it. And now this is the season to wear it. So you may see me in it in a future podcast instead of this one.
So that's a really fun design from this book. And then there are 23 other modern knits inspired by iconic women. A really great variety in this one. The classic liner setup of accessories, garments, cardigans, sweaters that all pull together really well in different yarn weights, very much feeling inspired by the environment as well as these women that are showcased. So yeah, this is really standing the test of time.
I feel too that like what this is as a collection that's really smart is that if you are the kind of person who wants to wear this cardigan, you are going to like the rest of the work in here.
Yeah.
It's quite a cohesive collection. I could see myself continuing to knit from this book and having a number of different pieces from it.
Yeah.
It's all very much of a style.
And that's not to say that all these dense gauges in terms of color work. It's
how they're worn. Yeah. It's the vibe.
Yeah.
It's a capsule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I really enjoyed making that. Vests fly. I feel like I could do a vest a week.
Maybe I should think about vests for the farmer.
Well, but you have something else that you're working on.
I do. Talking of endless stockinette and why I don't want to cast on another endless stockinette project, I do have this one that I have to push myself through to finish. But that's not hard because this yarn is such a joy to work with. This is the Stripes sweater by Andrea Mowry, which is the best fitting top-down yoke for me that I've knit for myself. Something about it, the shaping just fits really well. And from the Ravelry projects, that seems to be the case across the board on the sizing for this one. It's intended to be quite close fitting. Andrea Mowry isn't relying on 10 inches of positive ease to make it fit. So I've come back to this pattern a few times when I'm just like, I want to showcase the yarn and just trust the fit. So I ended up knitting it quite cropped in the body.
Yep.
Yeah, even with my high-waisted jeans, I might have taken it a little too far on this one, but it might block out a bit longer.
Yeah.
This is the Julie Asselin Mélange yarn, but in our collaboration Bon Tricot colorways, which we did for a pop-up with Julie before Christmas. And so this is a blend of merino and yak in a fingering weight yarn. It is gorgeously soft. You could tell me I was knitting with cashmere and I would believe you. So I have pulled out a bunch of colors. I just went to our classic Bon Tricot palette. You probably know these colors. I think there are a couple that I did new for this.
This is the gingerbread. This is new, yeah.
Just because I don't usually dye on a cruise, so I wanted to
see what would
happen. And we don't have all the colors left. This was a one-time thing, and we've had it in store for a few months. But I realized I'd never talked to you about it on a podcast, so I wanted to introduce you to it. They're 50-gram skeins, 200 yards, 56-gram skeins, 200 yards, and it is very much a leaning sport fingering weight.
Yeah.
This, I think, is a 22 stitch gauge.
Makes sense.
And it is like a perfect sweater density. You can see it's not transparent. It's not too tight. I'm just really enjoying knitting it. It's like butter swimming off my needles.
It's so soft.
Yeah.
And this is something that when we have people come to visit and they're like, what can I get that's super local and special to you guys? This is something obviously that we would show people.
It's also limited edition.
It's limited edition. It's hand dyed by Naomi on a base that's created by Julie Asselin, who's just up the road in Sherbrooke.
Yes. Spun in Canada, I believe.
And so this is really like another, not just the Haynes Creek, which is a Canadian company, or the Gathering Yarn. If this is something that's on your mind, and I know it's on a lot of people's minds, what can I get that's Canadian? This is something you could consider treating yourself to that is hyper Canadian. Yeah.
So I'm going to finish that. I will tell myself I'm going to finish that in time to wear over. I'll wear it over dresses. It's a cute little
it'd be
over
perfect.
dresses design.
So yeah. That's a lot. We've covered a lot.
We have
a lot of new yarn in the store. It feels good to see the shelves are groaning at the moment.
We had to rearrange our shelving again.
People come in and go, you've changed it again.
I'm sorry, we got more yarn and we needed to put it somewhere. Yes, apologies if you come in and can't find what you're looking for.
We're happy to point you in the right direction.
To help you find it.
And so, obviously we did a lot today, and there was stuff that we left out. Like there's other new stuff that's on the shelves.
We're saving our summer yarns
for next
episode. Along with something kind of fun and new for us coming up.
Yeah, we're sort of we're doing some multi-craftual stuff. So we'll have some things to show you next time that aren't knitting.
Yeah. Mystery. We'll have a summer update for you then, because we cannot pack more yarn into this episode.
Ooh, hope that it finds you well. Hope it finds you looking for inspiration, and just want to say thanks as always for watching us and for all your support. We really appreciate it.
Happy knitting et bon tricot.